The laughter was deafening. 20 wealthy gym members had their phones out, recording what they thought would be the most entertaining 10 minutes of their evening. Derek Sullivan, the cocky black belt instructor at Elite Combat Academy, was practically grinning as he circled around Maya Thompson like a predator toying with its prey. "Come on, cleaning lady," Derek taunted, his voice dripping with condescension as the crowd erupted in cruel laughter. "Show us those street fighting moves you picked up mopping floors." Maya Thompson stood frozen in the center of that expensive mat, wearing sneakers so worn you could see her socks through the holes, clutching a plastic grocery bag like it was her only lifeline. At 42 years old, she had come to this elite martial arts gym for one reason: to clean it for $50 so she could buy groceries for her 2 children. But Derek wasn't satisfied with just hiring her to scrub his floors. He wanted entertainment. He wanted to humiliate this struggling mother in front of his wealthy students who treated martial arts like an expensive hobby. "I'll put $200 on Derek," shouted Brad, an investment banker, waving cash in the air like Maya was some kind of circus act. The betting escalated quickly. Stephanie, a doctor's wife, was live-streaming it to her social media. Carlos, a tech entrepreneur, was already calculating odds. $800. That's what these people were willing to bet on watching a cleaning woman get beaten up by their instructor. $800, that represented more money than Maya had seen in months. More than enough to cover rent, groceries, and maybe even new shoes for her kids. But something happened that nobody in that room saw coming. What happened next silenced that entire gym and left Derek Sullivan unconscious on the mat, while Maya sobbed over $800 in crumpled bills, money that would change her family's life forever. What you're about to discover will shatter everything you think you know about strength, about survival, and about the incredible power of a mother's love. You're going to learn why the woman they mocked for cleaning their floors became the most feared person in a room full of black belts. If you want to see how this David versus Goliath story unfolds, hit that subscribe button right now, because what Maya did next didn't just silence the gym. It revealed a secret that would change everything. But first, let me take you back 12 hours earlier, to Maya's cramped apartment, where this incredible journey really began. Because to understand how a mother's desperation led to the most shocking moment in Elite Combat Academy's history, you need to see what drove her to accept that humiliating challenge. Her alarm clock shattered the silence at 4 a.m. in a cramped studio apartment that barely qualified as a home. This is where Maya Thompson, a 42-year-old single mother, began every day in a battle for survival that most people couldn't imagine. The refrigerator was empty, except for a half-gallon of milk that had gone sour 3 days ago. Past due notices covered their wobbly kitchen table like confetti from hell. Electricity, rent, phone bill. Each one stamped with threatening red letters. Maya worked 3 jobs just to stay one step ahead of eviction: night security at an office building, morning housekeeping at a hotel, and afternoon shifts as a grocery store cashier. 8-year-old Jamal would pretend he wasn't hungry, telling his mom he'd already eaten when she knew damn well there was nothing in the house. At school, this little boy would give away his free lunch to other kids, claiming he wasn't hungry so his mother wouldn't feel like a failure. 12-year-old Kira had become Maya's partner in survival, helping count bus fare coins every morning, making sure their second-hand clothes were spotless, even if they were falling apart. This little girl had grown up faster than any child should have to, understanding bill collectors and eviction notices when she should have been worried about middle school drama. But their bond was unbreakable. They were a team against a world that seemed determined to crush them. Now here's where the story gets interesting, and why what happened at that gym wasn't random at all. Hidden under a pile of old clothes in Maya's closet was a shoebox that held secrets nobody would believe. Newspaper clippings yellowed with age. Local team wins state championship. Thompson dominates regional finals. A faded trophy buried beneath worn-out work uniforms. When Kira once asked about the old photos of a teenage Maya with lightning-fast hands destroying heavy bags, Maya quickly closed that box and changed the subject. Some dreams, she had decided, were too dangerous to remember, when you're barely surviving. But there's something else Maya had been hiding, something that made her disappearance from professional fighting even more heartbreaking. 8 years ago, Maya Thompson wasn't just an undefeated champion heading to the Olympics. She was engaged to Carmel Williams, her coach and the love of her life, who had been battling stage 4 cancer. Carmel had spent his life savings on experimental treatments, draining every account, selling everything he owned, fighting for just one more day with Maya. When the doctors said there was nothing more they could do, Maya made a choice that would haunt her forever. She withdrew from the Olympics, cashed in every sponsorship deal, sold her championship medals, and used every penny to pay for Carmel's final months in a private facility where he could die with dignity. "Don't do this," Carmel had whispered from his hospital bed, tears streaming down his face as Maya signed the papers that ended her fighting career. "This is your dream. This is everything you've worked for." "You are my dream," Maya had replied, holding his hand as she watched her Olympic hopes disappear on paper. "Everything else is just fighting." Carmel passed away 3 weeks before Maya discovered she was pregnant with Jamal. She never got to tell him about the baby. She never got to say goodbye properly because she was too busy handling funeral arrangements she couldn't afford, medical bills that crushed her spirit, and the devastating realization that she was now alone with a child on the way. The breaking point came on a Tuesday afternoon that started like any other, but ended with Maya's world crashing down. Richard Foster, the grocery store manager, handed her a final paycheck for $127, 2 weeks of work that barely covered their bus fare. Her crime? Taking home expired food that was headed for the dumpster instead of letting it rot. Company policy, Foster shrugged as Maya's eyes filled with tears. Watching her lifeline disappear over food that was going to be thrown away anyway. That afternoon, Maya walked through the wealthiest neighborhoods in the city, knocking on doors, begging for any work, yard cleaning, dog walking, house sitting, anything to keep her family from becoming homeless. Her pride had died months ago, replaced by pure maternal desperation. That's when she passed Elite Combat Academy and saw something that stopped her cold. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows, wealthy people in pristine martial arts uniforms moved through forms and techniques that looked like choreographed dances. The parking lot was filled with luxury cars worth more than Maya would earn in 5 years. Patricia Allen, the gym's 45-year-old owner, initially looked at Maya like she was a problem to be solved quickly. But when Patricia saw the genuine desperation in Maya's eyes, something softened. $50 to deep clean the entire gym after hours. It wasn't much, but it was enough for groceries for 3 days. Maya was on her hands and knees, carefully mopping the expensive training mats, when Derek Sullivan arrived early for his evening class. This 28-year-old former college athlete had found his calling in martial arts, but not for the right reasons. Derek thrived on being the alpha, on making sure everyone knew he was superior. He watched Maya's careful attention to every piece of equipment, how she studied the techniques displayed in framed photos on the walls, and made condescending jokes about the cleaning lady trying to learn martial arts from pictures. When Derek's evening students started arriving, Brad Morrison, an investment banker who treated martial arts like an expensive golf membership, Stephanie Wells, a doctor's wife more interested in Instagram photos than actual training, Carlos Rivera, a tech entrepreneur who saw everything as a potential viral moment. The dynamic shifted. These people didn't come to Elite Combat Academy to learn discipline or self-defense. They came to play at being warriors while their real battles were fought by financial advisors and personal assistants. Derek noticed Maya watching their sparring session from the corner where she was organizing equipment. Her eyes tracked every movement with an intensity that should have been a warning sign. "Hey, cleaning lady," Derek announced loudly enough for his entire class to hear. "You look like you want to try this. How about a friendly match?" The laughter was instant and cruel. Maya politely declined, kept working, but Derek wasn't satisfied. He made increasingly inappropriate comments about her street fighting potential, treating her like entertainment for his wealthy students. That's when Brad Morrison pulled out his wallet and everything changed. "I'll put $200 on Derek," he announced, waving cash like Maya was a betting opportunity at a horse race. The others joined in immediately. Stephanie started recording on her phone. Carlos calculated odds like this was fantasy football. The betting pool reached $800 faster than Maya could process what was happening. $800. More money than Maya had seen in months. Enough to cover rent, groceries, new shoes for her kids, maybe even catch up on some of those past due bills. But more than that, it represented the same amount Maya still owed on Carmel's final medical bills. Debt collectors who called every week, threatening to garnish her wages from her minimum wage jobs. Every night for 8 years, Maya had stared at the empty space on her dresser where Carmel's photo used to sit before she pawned the silver frame to buy diapers for Jamal. She carried the crushing weight of wondering if she'd made the right choice. If Carmel would have wanted her to sacrifice everything. If her children would grow up resenting a mother who chose love over legacy. All she had to do was let this cocky instructor humiliate her in front of a room full of people who saw her as nothing more than entertainment. But what none of them knew was that the woman scrubbing their floors had once been someone completely different. Someone whose hands had been registered weapons. Someone whose name had once struck fear in the hearts of professional fighters. The question that would change everything was simple. How far would a mother go to feed her children? $800. As Maya stared at that pile of cash on the gym floor, two faces flashed through her mind like lightning bolts to her heart. Jamal, her 8-year-old son, trying not to cry when she couldn't afford his school supplies, watching other kids pull out brand new notebooks while he made do with torn pages taped together. Kira, her 12-year-old daughter, walking to school in the same shoes with holes in them for 6 months, her feet soaked every time it rained, never once complaining because she knew her mother was already drowning. In that moment, Maya's pride went to war with her children's needs, and there was only one winner. She looked up at Derek Sullivan, this cocky black belt who thought he was about to humiliate a desperate cleaning woman, and said the words that would change everything. "Okay. Light sparring match only." Derek's grin widened like a shark smelling blood in the water. He started showboating for Stephanie's camera, explaining the basic rules in the most condescending tone imaginable, treating Maya like she'd never seen a fist in her life. The wealthy spectators laughed and cheered, already counting their winnings. But something extraordinary happened, as Maya quietly removed her yellow cleaning gloves and tied her hair back in a simple ponytail. Her posture shifted in a way so subtle that most people missed it entirely. Her shoulders squared, her stance widened, her center of gravity dropped just slightly. Patricia Allen, the gym owner, was organizing equipment nearby when she glanced up and froze. Something about Maya's transformation made her frown with recognition, like seeing a half-remembered face in an old photograph. Derek threw his first punch, lazy, casual, not even trying to hide his contempt. He expected Maya to flinch, to stumble, to give him and his audience the show they wanted. Instead, Maya dodged effortlessly, her movement so fluid it looked like she was dancing. The crowd's laughter began to fade into confused murmurs. Derek's confident smirk wavered for just a moment. Then Maya's muscle memory awakened, like a sleeping dragon opening its eyes. Her footwork became poetry in motion, each step calculated and precise. Derek increased his intensity, throwing combinations that would have overwhelmed any amateur. But Maya stayed just out of reach, her expression calm and focused like she was reading his attacks 3 moves ahead. Patricia pulled out her phone with trembling fingers, frantically typing something into her search engine. The look on her face had shifted from casual interest to stunned disbelief. Derek's frustration mounted with every missed punch. This wasn't supposed to happen. This cleaning woman was supposed to be easy entertainment, not some ghost who slipped away from every attack like smoke. His ego couldn't handle being outclassed by someone he'd dismissed as worthless. Frustrated and humiliated, Derek threw a real punch intended to hurt, a vicious right cross aimed at Maya's jaw with enough force to drop an amateur fighter. Maya slipped it perfectly, her head moving just inches to the left, and countered with a lightning-quick jab that stopped exactly 1 inch from Derek's nose. The precision was surgical. The speed was inhuman. The control was absolute. The entire gym fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop on those expensive mats. Patricia gasped and shoved her phone screen in her face. The tech entrepreneur's eyes widened as he read the search results that would explain everything. Maya Thompson, former Olympic alternate, 3-time national champion, undefeated professional record of 23 wins and 0 losses before mysteriously disappearing from competitive fighting 8 years ago. 8 years ago, right around the time Maya would have had her children. If you're watching this thinking you know where this story is going, hit that subscribe button right now, because what happens next will shock you more than anything you've seen so far. The woman they thought was just a desperate cleaning lady wasn't just hiding her identity, she was hiding a secret that would make her the most dangerous person in that room. A secret that explained why she could move like water and strike like lightning. A secret that was about to turn Derek Sullivan's world upside down in the most devastating way possible. The moment Derek Sullivan realized he was facing a ghost from the fighting world, something snapped inside him. His carefully constructed image as the elite gym's alpha was crumbling in real time, and 20 wealthy spectators were witnessing his humiliation. The whispers had already started. Patricia Chen was showing people her phone screen. Brad Morrison had stopped laughing. Derek's desperation turned ugly. This wasn't about a light sparring match anymore. This was about his reputation, his ego, his entire identity as the dominant force in that gym. He launched a vicious combination with the full intention of hurting Maya, throwing haymakers designed to overwhelm and punish rather than demonstrate skill. But Maya Thompson responded on pure instinct, muscle memory, from years of professional training taking over like she was stepping back into her true skin. She slipped Derek's wild right hand, stepped inside his guard, and unleashed a perfect counter combination that was both beautiful and devastating. The sequence lasted less than 3 seconds. A precise jab to create distance, a textbook left hook to the body that folded Derek like a lawn chair, and a final uppercut that sent him to the canvas, unconscious but mercifully uninjured. Maya's control was so perfect that she'd knocked him out without causing any permanent damage. Derek Sullivan, the cocky black belt instructor who had humiliated a cleaning woman for sport, lay motionless on his expensive training mats. But here's what separated Maya from every other fighter in that room. The moment Derek hit the ground, she immediately dropped to her knees beside him, checking his pulse with the practiced knowledge of someone who understood exactly how dangerous her hands could be. This wasn't celebration. This was concern for someone she'd just been forced to hurt. The gym erupted in stunned whispers. 20 wealthy people who had come to watch entertainment suddenly realized they'd witnessed something extraordinary. Brad Morrison quietly pocketed his betting money, no longer interested in collecting winnings from what had become deeply uncomfortable. Stephanie Wells stopped filming, her phone hanging limply in her hand. Maya stared down at Derek's unconscious form and broke down crying. But these weren't tears of triumph or satisfaction. These were tears from the crushing weight of her circumstances, from being forced to reveal the warrior she used to be just to put food on her children's table. As Maya stood over Derek's unconscious body, holding that $800, she whispered something that only Patricia Allen was close enough to hear. "This is for you, Carmel. I finally found a way to fight again." The money in her hands wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about honoring the man who had believed in her strength even when she couldn't see it herself. It was about proving that choosing love over glory hadn't made her weak. It had made her unbreakable. That's when Carlos Rivera approached slowly, holding the collected betting money, $800 in crumpled bills that represented more than survival for Maya's family. He extended the cash toward her with something that hadn't been in his voice all evening: respect. Maya stared at that money, her hands shaking like leaves in a hurricane. "I can't take this," she whispered, her voice breaking. "I didn't want this to happen. I just needed work." "You earned it fair and square," Carlos replied softly, his earlier arrogance completely gone. "Nobody here knew what we were asking you to do." But the real breakthrough came when Patricia Allen stepped forward. her voice filled with recognition and something approaching awe. "Maya Thompson," she said quietly. "You were my daughter's hero. Melissa's had your poster on her bedroom wall for 3 years." As if summoned by fate itself, 16-year-old Melissa Allen walked through the gym doors for her late practice session, took one look at Maya kneeling on the mat, and her face exploded with pure amazement. "Oh my God," Melissa breathed, dropping her equipment bag. "You're Maya Lightning Thompson. You're the fighter who won 3 national championships before you disappeared. I studied every one of your fights. You were supposed to go to the Olympics." The silence in that gym was deafening. Every person who had laughed at Maya, who had treated her like entertainment, who had seen nothing but a desperate cleaning woman, suddenly understood they had been in the presence of greatness and hadn't recognized it. Maya looked up at Melissa, with tears streaming down her face, holding $800 that would change her children's lives, surrounded by people who finally saw her for who she really was. But the most powerful moment wasn't her victory over Derek Sullivan. It was the realization that she had never stopped being a champion. She had just been fighting different battles. The woman who had scrubbed floors for $50 had just reminded a room full of wealthy people that true strength isn't measured by your bank account or your job title. It's measured by how far you're willing to go to protect the people you love most. As Maya knelt on that mat, clutching $800 while Derek Sullivan slowly regained consciousness, Patricia Allen made a decision that would change everything. The gym owner stepped forward and spoke words that Maya thought she'd never hear again. "I want to offer you a position as head instructor here. Full salary, benefits, and the respect you deserve." Maya's tears shifted from despair to something she hadn't felt in 8 years. Hope. Real, tangible hope that her children might finally have the stability they deserved. Melissa Allen thrust a pen and paper toward Maya with the excitement of meeting her childhood hero. Asking for an autograph like Maya was still the champion she'd always been in Melissa's eyes. But the most powerful moment came when Derek Sullivan, fully recovered and completely humbled, approached Maya with genuine respect, replacing his earlier arrogance. "My behavior tonight was inexcusable," he admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. Would you teach me real technique? I realize I don't know anything compared to what you can do." Maya's response revealed everything about her true character. Despite being humiliated and mocked by this man, she graciously accepted his apology and agreed to help him become a better fighter and a better person. That's what real champions do. They lift others up, even those who've wronged them. When Patricia offered Maya the head instructor position, she included something that made Maya's knees buckle: full health insurance and a signing bonus large enough to finally pay off Carmel's medical debt. For the first time in 8 years, Maya could visit his grave without the shame of unpaid bills hanging over her heart. 2 hours later, Maya walked into her cramped studio apartment carrying something she hadn't brought home in months: hope. Grocery bags filled with real food, new school supplies for her children, and most importantly, the promise of stability. 8-year-old Jamal and 12-year-old Kira didn't understand why their mother was crying happy tears, but they wrapped their arms around her anyway. That night, Maya did something she hadn't done in 8 years. She pulled out that hidden shoebox, removed her faded championship trophy, and placed it prominently on their wobbly kitchen table, where her children could see it. For the first time, she was ready to tell them who their mother really was. 3 months later, in her new office at Elite Combat Academy, Maya placed Carmel's photo in a brand new silver frame next to her championship trophy. Jamal and Kira finally learned about the father figure they never got to meet, and why their mother had given up everything for love. "Would you do it again, Mom?" Kira asked one evening as they looked through old photos of Maya and Carmel together. Maya smiled, watching her children, healthy, happy, and proud of their champion mother. "Every single day," she whispered, "love is the only fight that's always worth winning." Maya's journey teaches us something profound about the human spirit. Circumstances can force us to hide our true selves, to bury our talents and dreams under the weight of survival, but they can never erase our worth. Strength isn't about proving anything to others or dominating those weaker than us. Real strength is about surviving when everything seems hopeless, protecting the people you love at any cost, and maintaining your dignity even when the world treats you like you're invisible. 3 months later, Maya Thompson stood in front of a packed class at Elite Combat Academy, but she wasn't just teaching martial arts techniques. She was teaching respect, humility, and the true meaning of strength. Her students included several people from that night who had learned to see beyond appearances and recognize greatness in unexpected places. In the corner of the gym, Jamal and Kira sat doing their homework, occasionally looking up to watch their mother teach with pride shining in their eyes. They finally understood that their mom wasn't just a survivor. She was a champion who had never stopped fighting, even when her battles moved from the ring to the grocery store checkout line. Derek Sullivan, now one of Maya's most dedicated students, had learned that true martial arts isn't about dominating others. It's about mastering yourself. The wealthy spectators who had once treated Maya like entertainment now sought her guidance, understanding that wisdom and strength come from the most unexpected places. The emotional debt wasn't just financial. It was the weight of wondering if she'd made the right choice, if Carmel would have wanted her to sacrifice everything, if her children deserved a mother who chose love over legacy. But standing in that gym, teaching students about real strength, Maya finally understood that her greatest victory wasn't in any championship ring. It was in proving that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is give up everything for the people you love most. Maya's story reminds us that behind every person struggling to make ends meet, behind every individual we might dismiss or overlook, there could be a champion waiting to rise again. The question isn't whether people deserve our respect. It's whether we're wise enough to recognize greatness when it's standing right in front of us. If this story moved you, if it changed how you see the people around you, hit that subscribe button and share this with someone who needs to remember that their current circumstances don't define their worth. Because sometimes the most powerful victories happen not in championships or competitions, but in the quiet moments when we choose to keep fighting for the people we love.